the heart really is all the ancients believed it to be. It really truly is the seat of our soul. It's the source of love and creativity and romance. And I believe that the most important thing that you can do for yourself is to remove that wall. You can do this yourself, by the way. I am telling you, if you want love, if you're looking for love, you want to find your soulmate, you want to find that person that is really the ideal person for you, that person is out there. But if you've got a wall around your heart, you may spend your whole life looking and you may never find that person. The odds are much higher if you can take down that wall so that your heart is open. It's really the most incredible thing. I mean, my belief is that the consciousness level of the earth every single day now is greater than it was the day before. The scales are falling away from people's eyes. People are waking up.
Dr. Bradley Nelson, brother, welcome on the podcast. What are you most excited about right now in your life?
Well, for the last couple of years, I've been working on my next book, which is called The Body Code: How to Unlock Your Body's Ability to Heal Itself. And I'm really excited because the book is finally done and it's coming out from St. Martin's Press in February. You can pre-order it online on Amazon or Barnes & Noble or whatever. But I've been working for the last few days, reading the book, doing the dictation of the book, so it'll be available on Audible and on audio as well. So that's kind of fun. So that's the biggest thing right now that I'm working on, trying to just finally get it completely done, and it's going to change a lot of people's lives.
Beautiful. And coincidentally, actually, a couple months ago, two practitioners, they're a couple that reached out to me on Instagram of the emotion code and the body code. And I told them that we were going to get the chance to have you on the show. And they said, we would love to do a session for you. And last night I did my first body code session. So much came up and I just wanted to,
awesome.
throughout the episode, dive deeper into that. But before that, here's one topic that usually gets left till the end in most of your podcasts, most of your interviews, that I'd love to just place at the center point, because I feel that it's probably the most important thing that we can do for ourselves, which is opening and, clearing that heart wall that we have in our chest. And, I've heard you talk about the heart wall as one of the most important discoveries that's been made in energy medicine. So I just want to let that sink in for people. And 9 out of 10 people have placed a wall over their heart. So even going more deep than just explaining what the heart wall is, I just wanted to ask you and open up with this heart wall. How does it begin to manifest in someone's body? And what are the most common reasons that 9 out of 10 people in the world have placed a wall over their heart? What is the deeper reason behind that?
Well, I think to help people understand the heart wall and to answer those questions, I think I need to set the stage a little bit first about what the heart wall is and what trapped emotions are. Because a lot of people aren't aware, but when you experience an intense emotion, oftentimes what happens is the energy of that emotion can become trapped in the body. And a trapped emotion is literally what we refer to often as our emotional baggage, right? And so if you think about the events that you've gone through in your life, were you bullied? Did your parents argue? Did your parents get divorced? Did you get divorced? Have you had difficulties of any kind? And if you're human, you probably have been through quite a few things that you would rather not have gone through, right?
Yes.
And the thing is, the body itself is just a very complex energy field. We know that from quantum physics. Emotions are energy. Emotions are vibration. Every different emotion has a specific frequency. And sometimes emotional energy will become trapped in the body. And we call those trapped emotions, literally our emotional baggage. And a trapped emotion is a little ball of energy from about the size of a baseball to about the size of a softball. And these things are a big underlying cause of physical pain. They're present in every disease process we experience. They are the underlying cause of things like depression and anxiety and phobias and panic attacks and PTSD and eating disorders. Now, if you think for a moment about the people that you know, are any of them dealing with any of these things? And if they are, you may be able to actually help them by helping them to release this emotional baggage. It's actually a really simple process. So to get to the heart, if you go back to the 1960s when doctors started first doing heart transplants, people would come back to the doctor sometimes and they would report strange things. Like they would say that their taste in music or food or sports had totally changed. Sometimes they'd have memories of being in places that they never in their life had ever visited. Sometimes their handwriting would totally change. And when these people would be connected with the family of the heart donor, they would find out, oh my gosh, that's our son's handwriting that you have. How crazy is that? Or,
wow.
You know, our daughter visited Rome every year, and now you have her heart beating in your chest, and you also have memories of being in Rome, but you say you've never ever visited Rome. Those must
now
be her
she's speaking
memories.
Italian out here.
Yeah, exactly. That could also happen. I haven't heard of that, but it could happen.
Wow.
So it's really interesting. The ancient peoples believed that the heart was the seat of the soul and the source of love and creativity and romance. And in the West, we really haven't given any credence to any of those ancient ideas. At most, we've thought that those people just were very poetic in the heart. You know, it was just poetic license. But think about this. Have you ever felt like your heart was going to break? Have you ever felt like there was an elephant sitting on your chest? Emilio, have you had that happen to you? Have you experienced that?
Heartbreak for sure. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And most of us have. And so if you think about it, I mean, if someone's really hurting you or you're feeling really deeply grieved, you feel it physically, but you don't feel it in your knee, you know, or your low back. You feel it right here. You feel it in your chest, right in the core of your being, just what the ancients believed it to be. And now we have modern instrumentation and tests that have shown that the heart is way more than we ever thought that it was. In fact, they've done studies where they found that the heart puts out an energy field about 12 feet in diameter. And if one person's feeling love or affection for another person, their heart rates will synchronize. And, you know, so
I read even with enlightened masters, that could even extend up to 30 feet.
Sure. Absolutely. Well, in a sense, I think it probably is infinite, really.
Yes.
But it's probably kind of like the light from a candle that is brightest at the source, but then dims the further away you get. But it's really so interesting. So anyway, what happened to me was, in my practice, I had been removing people's emotional baggage with this method that we call the emotion code now, and it worked amazingly well. I mean, people's depression and anxiety would go away, their pain would go away, all kinds of things would improve. But sometimes people would come in to see me, and I'd remove all their emotional baggage, and I would have this sense, this feeling that I was missing something. There was something else going on with some people that I wasn't able to find. I knew there had to be more emotional baggage for them, but I couldn't find it. So what happened to me one day, this is in 1998.
The year I was born.
The year you were born, okay. My wife and I were at this conference, and she woke me up early on the morning of this conference and said that she'd had a dream. And in her dream, she saw 3 symbols, and she asked me to help her decipher what the dream meant, what these symbols were. So we figured out the first 2. And when I turned my attention to the 3rd symbol from her dream, suddenly I had what I can only describe to you as a waking vision, where the room that I was in suddenly was gone. And I'm looking instead at this incredibly beautiful hardwood floor that looks like a mirror. I mean, just absolutely the most beautiful floor I've ever seen in my life. This is 4K, high def.
Yeah.
And this lasted for several minutes. And I'd never had anything like this happen to me before in my life. But at the moment that this vision came to me, this understanding also came into my mind that my wife's heart was underneath this floor that I was seeing. And I had no idea what this meant. And this lasted several minutes. And I told my wife what I was seeing and what was happening to me. She didn't have any idea what it was either, or what it meant. So we said a prayer and asked for some guidance. And then we started doing some testing on her body, using muscle testing, asking yes and no questions, trying to get answers about this. And what we found was that when she was about 2 years old, she started putting a wall up around her heart. And that wall was made from layers of her emotional baggage. And it's interesting because the price that she paid for having this wall, and like you said, 9 out of 10 people have put up a wall like this around the heart. Well, the price that she paid was that it was easy for her to feel negative emotions. Now think about your own self as you're watching or listening. See if any of these things are maybe true for you. It was easy for her to feel negative emotions, hard to feel positive ones. She had to really work at it. She battled with depression and anxiety, and she always felt like the odd person out. With any group she was ever with, even girlfriends that she'd known for her whole life, when she was with them, she always felt like she didn't really truly belong there, like she was kind of an outsider. Yeah. And so we started removing the layers of emotion making up this wall around her heart. And took a couple of weeks when that last layer was removed, and suddenly her heart was no longer blocked by these layers of emotional baggage. All of a sudden, her life shifted dramatically, and she had this sudden feeling like she belonged for the first time with her friends, and things shifted for her so much. Well, the heart really is all the ancients believed it to be. It really truly is the seat of our soul. It's the source of love and creativity and romance. And I believe that the most important thing that you can do for yourself is to remove that wall. You can do this yourself, by the way. You don't have to have someone else do it, although we just certified our 10,000th emotion code practitioner around the world. We have, in 80 countries. So if you're looking for someone, you can go to discoverhealing.com, our website. You can find someone, but you can also read the book and learn how to do this yourself. And you can work on yourself and release your own heart wall if you want to. So let's get back to your questions at the beginning about the heart wall. How it forms typically is people go through an experience where they feel that heartache feeling. Yeah. Like there's an elephant sitting on their chest, or like they can't breathe, or like they're choking. If that happens to you...
Very visceral, very physical feeling.
Yes. Yeah, exactly right. Well, your heart literally is breaking in a sense. Your heart is under assault, and the heart is really the core of your being when that kind of thing is going on. If that happens to you more than once or twice, your subconscious mind has a solution. It puts up a wall, and that helps your heart. It helps you to not feel things as keenly, as deeply, because sometimes those feelings can be hurtful, right?
You become kind of numb in a way.
Exactly.
With the heart wall.
You do. It lessens your ability to really feel. The problem is it lessens your ability to feel love from other people. It makes it harder for you to give love, because love is not only a verb, love's an energy that travels from your heart to the heart of that other person. And it's amazing. You know, there are so many stories from people that have had their heart wall removed. But one of my favorites was from a woman named Raluca in Italy. She wrote in and she said, in her somewhat broken English, she said, for years my marriage run badly, and then I got a new husband. And I'm reading this the first time I saw it thinking, okay, she got a divorce and got a new husband. No. What she did, she explained, is she hired an emotion code practitioner to work on her husband's heart wall. And this practitioner was in Budapest, worked on her husband's heart wall, cleared his heart wall, and she said, now it's like I got a new husband. He's so loving and so kind. It really shifted him. And she said it shifted me too, because I had a heart wall. Imagine think about this, 9 out of 10 people in this world have a wall put up around their heart. When you read the news and you read about somebody hurting other people in some way, you can be assured that there's a heart wall there. Because when you have a heart wall, you're operating from this brain instead of this brain. We know that the heart now is a second brain. Really, it's the first brain. It's the brain we should be using most of the time, see?
Seat of intuition as well.
Exactly, yeah.
Wow.
So we're operating from this brain in this world, and And because of that, this brain, you see, feels nothing. So to this brain, dropping bombs to make a political statement, et cetera, or to settle differences between nations, that makes perfect sense to this brain because this brain doesn't feel anything.
Yeah.
But this brain feels. And the future, I'm telling you, Emilio, the future of this planet is we are moving to a place, we're moving into a new world where life is going to be dominated by this heart, where people are going to be living from their heart. Imagine living in a world like that, where everyone is really manifesting that perfect blueprint that lies within the heart of each person. That's where we're going. It's so exciting to me. I just can't quite get over it.
And we're in one of the greatest awakenings in human history. And I've also heard you say exactly that. We're in the age of the heart. And one thing I wanted to dive deeper on is that, I've noticed that when my heart is closed, I tend to be a bit shyer around people. Or let's say I want to attract someone in my life, maybe a romantic partner, and nothing is working out. Like I'll go on a couple dates and it just will fall through. One thing I learned from you and your work is the broadcast message that we send out energetically to people when we have a trapped emotion. If you would like to explain, what is a broadcast message and how does this operate energetically between people?
Right. Well, a broadcast message is a particular energetic imbalance that we talk about in the body code. And what it is essentially the subconscious mind at some point, it's always trying to put two and two together. And things happen in your life that are good. Sometimes things happen that are bad. And your subconscious mind will put together a statement essentially to send out into the world that is sometimes good, sometimes bad. Sometimes they're negative statements like, I'm easy, or hurt me, or
betrayal.
I don't deserve. Yeah, it can be anything. And so it's one of the energetic imbalances that we have found that can really make a difference in people's lives. I mean, imagine if energetically you're sending out a message to people that I don't like you. What's going to happen? Well, it's going to make it harder for people to connect with you because you see, it's all communicated on a subconscious level. You see, we have this conscious mind, which is where we spend all of our waking hours and we take our classes and we live our lives and have our relationships and so on. But that conscious mind is an infinitesimally tiny fraction, I believe, of your total intelligence.
Tip of the iceberg.
The tip of the iceberg. Even less than that, really. So the rest of that vast bulk of your intelligence, like the part of the iceberg below the waterline, that's your subconscious mind. And that part of you is the part of you that's keeping track of everything in your life and creating new cells and new proteins and keeping your heart beating and air coming in and out of your lungs. And it's running all these processes in your body. But it's also where these other kinds of energies lie, like broadcast messages. Well, like the heart wall too. The heart wall is a creation of the subconscious mind, and it's an attempt to protect your heart so it doesn't get hurt again, so it doesn't get broken. And the problem with having a heart wall is that it can really interfere with your life. One of my favorite stories, one of our practitioners told me the story. She said that her sister had been divorced for 9 years and finally called her up. She'd never let her sister, the practitioner, who told me the story, work on her. And so one day she calls her up. She says, listen, I've been alone now for 9 years. I'm tired of being alone. Would you please just come work on me? Find out if I have a heart wall. And so she did. So the two of them spent the weekend together. She was able to clear her sister's heart wall. A lot of the emotions, I think, were from the divorce she'd been through 9 years before. Neither one of them told anybody that they had been doing this. But on Monday, the phone started to ring. Who's calling? Guys that had known the sister, the divorced sister, years before. Suddenly, her heart is open. That energy of her heart, that pure essence of her being, now is just going out like a beacon into the world.
Oh.
And these guys are on that same, they're picking up on that wavelength. Oh my gosh.
All the Tinder dates coming in, flooding now.
I am telling you, if you want love, if you're looking for love, you want to find your soulmate, you want to find that person that is really the ideal person for you, that person is out there. But if you've got a wall around your heart, you may spend your whole life looking and you may never find that person. The odds are much higher if you can take down that wall so that your heart is open. It's really the most incredible thing. I mean, we have stories of people, so many stories. People have told me that for the first time in their life, when the heart wall is removed, they know what it feels like to feel the emotion of joy.
Yes.
They experienced it. They'd never experienced it before. People have told me that they didn't really know what love was until the wall was taken down. People have told me that for the first time in their life, when the wall is taken down, they actually can feel the love of God, or the Creator, the universe for them. That's why people have called it the most important discovery in the history of energy medicine. And I would love to say I discovered it, but I didn't discover it. It was just shown to me. I don't have this kind of imagination. I never would have figured this out ever.
Yeah. And Dr. Bradley, to close out this segment of the podcast around the heart wall, I was really wondering if, not in a selfish way at all or egotistical way, I would love to give people a demonstration of what removing a heart wall could look like. If you would be open to maybe using me as a guinea pig to see if there's any heart walls that my subconscious can tell you about. I'd love to give people a little demonstration of what the emotion code, body code really is about and how you do it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So first of all, this work really came about during the many years that I was in practice working with patients day in and day out. And we all have different beliefs about the higher power, the universe, God, source energy. But I do happen to believe in God. And it was really an answer to prayer that got me into the healing arts in the first place. After some miraculous things had happened to me earlier in my life pertaining to health and sicknesses that I had. And so I developed this habit. And the habit was, it was a totally private, totally personal habit. But when somebody would come in to see me, I'd see a new patient. Before I'd go to work on them, I would just try to make a connection with that higher power. And sometimes it was just saying, okay, help, acknowledging that there is something greater than me and asking for help, right? And there were times, Emilio, in response to those requests, that information would just flood in like an avalanche.
Download.
I'd get those downloads, and it was really fun. Those were kind of rare. But anyway, one of the things that I found was that my patients were all suffering from something called emotional baggage. And I don't know if you can see this. This is the chart of emotions.
Yeah, we'll pull it up. We'll pull it up. We'll when we edit this, we'll pull it out for people.
Okay, so here's what we're going to do. When we work with someone else at a distance, the first thing that we like to do, and the first thing that we teach people, is whatever you believe. If you happen to believe in a higher power, whatever you believe, we ask that you just take a moment and ask for that help. Because what it does is it opens up a conduit so that we can receive that help and that guidance. That's when the angels come in and stand behind us and so on, and are there helping us. So let's do that here. We'll just take a moment and we'll do that right now. All right, awesome. So now what I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to be using something called the ring-in-ring test. Now, if I were there with you, Emilio, if you were to hold your arm out parallel to the floor, and if you were to make a true statement, like my name is Emilio, if I were to press down on your arm, you'd be able to resist me. Yeah. And by the way, you feel free to try this with your friends. Have them say their name is their name.
I did it with my sister the other day. She's like, I don't know if I want to go out today. And I was like, come here, put your arm out. I'm like, is your name X? Is your name Mariana? And then her arm was strong. Is your name Jessica? And she's like, nah. And then we got to the conclusion she didn't end up going out. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, so you can try that with someone, but you can also do this yourself. And this is one of the things we teach in the emotion code. And so the first thing that we want to know is, are we connected energetically? Now, if you happen to be taking quantum physics in school, you'll get to a part where they're going to talk about entanglement. Einstein called it spooky action at a distance, where energies can become entangled at vast distances, at least as great as the diameter of the Earth. And so the human body has this amazing ability built right into it to set aside its own needs to act on behalf of someone else. And so what I want to know right now is if our energies have become entangled so that I can ask questions and have the answers from your subconscious mind manifest immediately on my own body. So let's ask, are we connected energetically? And we are. It's just that simple. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to ask questions. Now I'm directing these questions really at your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind will answer, and the answers, since we're entangled, will show up on my body, and they'll show up as either strength, so these rings will tend to stay together when I try to pull them apart, or weakness for no answers, or the rings will...
And I've also seen this used with pendulums, right? When the pendulum starts going like this by itself or swinging to the other side.
Yeah, pendulums can be used, any kind of dowsing tools, all the tools like pendulums and bobbers and L rods and things like that in the dowsing world, all they're doing is just magnifying the response that's being given by the body, because the body itself is the most sensitive instrument in the world that we know of. And so that's really what we're tapping into. So here we go. Let's first of all ask, let's ask if you have a heart wall. And actually you do. So when you got work done, did they find that out?
We didn't find a heart wall.
You didn't get that?
Yeah, didn't get it. Didn't come up.
That's all right. No worries. Let's see. Okay. All right. So let's ask if we can remove a trapped emotion from your heart wall right now. And the answer is yes. Okay. So looking at the chart of emotions, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask, is this emotion in column A on the chart? I get a yes. Okay, so that means it's not in column B. So we've just eliminated half of the emotions. So there are 60 emotions in the chart. And because we just eliminated column B, I got a no answer. I got a yes answer that it's in column A. We have 30 emotions left. Now we're going to divide column A up by 2, and we'll ask, is it in one of the odd rows in column A? And the answer is no. Now, understand, I have no idea what this emotion is. And consciously, Emilio, you have no idea what it is either, but your subconscious knows what it is. So is it in an odd row? That's row 1, 3, or 5 in column A, and the answer is no. So it's in one of the even rows in column A. Is it in row 2 in column A or row 4? It's in row 4 in column A. That one's strong. Okay. So now what we do is we look at the chart of emotions, and we've got anger, bitterness, guilt, hatred, and resentment in there. So let's see which one of these it is. So is the emotion anger? No. Is it bitterness? No. Is it guilt? No. Is it hatred? No. Is it resentment? No. Okay, so right out of the gate here, what we're finding is an inherited trapped emotion, right? Exactly. When the subconscious mind takes you to a column and a row, and then you can't figure out what one of those emotions, or which one of those it is, that's how the subconscious takes you to inherited emotions. And an inherited trapped emotion is an emotional energy that's received at the moment of conception from mom or dad, that they might have gotten at conception from their mom or dad, and these can go back for generations. Scientists now they're onto this. They're finding out that sure enough, animals will, for example, pass down up to 14 generations a traumatic experience, so that their offspring will avoid this particular area of the forest, or they'll stay away from this part of the maze. We know they don't know how that works. They're looking at DNA, but we know what it is. It's an energetic, it's an energy, a trapped emotional energy that's passed down. So let's see what emotion this is. First of all, we'll ask, is this inherited? It is. And what emotion is this? Is it inherited anger? No. Is it inherited bitterness? No. Is it inherited guilt? It's an inherited emotion of guilt. All right. So let's see what that is and how far back that goes. Did you get this from your mother? No, this came from your father. And so did he get this from someone earlier? Yes. He got this from his father? Yep. All right. And does this go back even further? It does. How many generations does it go back? Does it go back 10 generations? From you, 10 generations. Does it go back 15 generations? So it goes back at least 15. Does it go back 20? No. So 16 generations? Actually, no. So it goes back 15 generations from you. So just to give you an idea, if we say 15 generations times roughly 26 years per generation, comes out to about 390 years ago. And if we subtract that from 2022, it comes out to about 1632. Okay. So you had an ancestor back then that apparently had a bad day or something happened. And that emotion of guilt was so powerful that it became trapped in that ancestor's body. By the way, was this a female? No, this was a male. So it was a grandfather of yours all those years ago. So something happened. Terrible, terrible guilt. And essentially what happened was when that grandfather of yours helped to conceive a child, his subconscious mind essentially made a decision. Basically, well, I went through this and that guilt was so powerful, I'm going to pass this down to this child so that this child will maybe be able to avoid what I experienced and avoid that pain, you see. And so let's ask if there's anything else we need to know about this, and there isn't. Now, so to release a trapped emotion like this, what we do is we use a meridian called the governing meridian, which starts at the tailbone. It goes straight up over the back, over the top of the head to the inside of the upper lip. Yeah. And we can use any length of that meridian to release an energy like this. So what we're going to do right now is I'm going to swipe 10 times over that meridian. Here we go. To release that energy, kind of like if you take a credit card out of your wallet and you rub a magnet on the magnetic strip on the back, it erases that data. It's kind of the same thing. So now let's ask, did we release that trapped emotion of guilt from you? That was part of this wall. And did it also release from your father and from his father and from all those ancestors all the way back? And there's a fascinating aspect of this that apparently these ancestors of ours, well, you know, they're dead physically. And many of them, in this case, for example, I mean, going back to the 1600s, their bodies long ago turned to dust. But I believe the spirit is immortal. And so they're still alive, and apparently they're still carrying, or they were still carrying that energy, that guilt. So
you've also said that your ancestors are waiting for you to help them. So when we heal generations and generations
That's
back.
Right. Well, think about
and
this.
Forward too. Generations forward too. Huh.
Yeah. In fact, let me tell you a story. I was at a conference once, and I was speaking, and I asked for a volunteer. I said to the audience, I had about 300 people in the audience, and I said, if you think that you're in more pain than anybody else could possibly be, I want you to stand up. And so this woman stands up, and she hobbles up to the stage, and she said she's had this terrible hip pain for a year, and she's seen doctors for it, nobody can fix it. So what I found going on with her was that she had an inherited trapped emotion of fear that she had gotten from her father, who got it from his father, who got it from his father, who got it from his father. It goes back 11 generations, 11 or 12 generations. Anyway, so one of the fascinating things about this is that in these live events, what I'll do, because the subconscious mind of the person that I'm working on is aware of things that you know the conscious mind's not usually aware of. I always do this little process where I'll ask, okay, are these ancestors that have passed on, are they here right now with us? And I did this with this lady, and the answer was yes. And I said, well, are they floating around in the air up there? No. Her subconscious mind knew exactly what was going on. Are they sitting out in the audience? That was a no. And then I said, okay, are they up here on the stage with us? Yes. And that's always how it works. They're always, when the ancestors show up, the direct line ancestors do show up. And it might sound spooky or something, but it's really not. You can't see anything, but...
Well, that even happened to you when your daughter was clearing the inherited emotion of hopelessness, where she felt the presence of that ancestor right next to her when they cleared that for you.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So anyway, so we've got these ancestors there, and we can't see them, but there wasn't anything else to know, so I went ahead and released that energy. Now, in quantum physics, you see, this all makes sense. Yeah. Because in quantum physics, we learn that one energy can really exist in an infinite number of places at the same time. And so when you have a trapped emotion, you see, like this, it exists in every single person's body all the way down the line. It's one energy, though. So if you release it from one person, it clears from everybody else. So that's what happened with her. So I released this from her, and she immediately starts walking around, not limping anymore. And then she starts dancing around because the pain was gone, right? This is not unusual at all, okay? You have to come to one of my live events and you'll see what this is like. It's really fun. But anyway, so she goes back and sits down. And so I finished my lecture. I go back to, we had some tables for our staff out there in the hallway. And this woman comes up after I'd gotten back out there. And she said, Dr. Nelson, she said, I was in your class, she said, just now. She said, I want you to know something. She said, I'm one of those people that can see spirits. She said, I've had this gift. Some people have this gift. She says, it's kind of been a blessing and kind of been a curse, but I have that ability. She said, I wanted you to know something. She said, when you were describing those grandfathers up there on the stage, she said, I just wanted you to know that I saw all of them. And so I just wanted to verify that what you were saying was true. But she said, there was something else going on that I don't know that you're aware of. She said, what I saw surrounding the stage were about 200 spirits of this woman's yet to be born descendants that were there rejoicing that they weren't going to have to take on this crippling energy from her. Wow. And so, yeah.
That's strong. That's strong. Wow. Right. Thank you so much for sharing that. I felt that. I wanted to ask you, just to go a little bit deeper into that, because, with our ancestors, we're connected by this lineage. And I've heard you briefly speak upon energetic cords that we can create with maybe people right now physically that are alive, maybe business partners, maybe past relationships. And we create these energetic cords, not only with our ancestors, but when you're approaching someone's energetic cords. Like, for example, yesterday we released one with a past business partner of mine that was holding me back in many ways. And I just wanted to ask you, surrounding this idea of energetic cords, what is the easiest way to break them?
Well, the easiest way to break a cord, first, let me just give a little bit more information about these. If you think about, for example, a woman who gives birth to a child, and the doctor cuts the umbilical. Well, the doctor cuts the physical umbilical, but there's definitely an invisible energy umbilical that still connects the mother to the child, right? And I think that's how mother's intuition works. I think that's how my mother always knew that I was in trouble. When I was in school, she'd call me up. She'd say, what's wrong? I'd say, oh, yeah, Mom, leave me alone.
It happens.
Right. She would always know. But anyway, the easiest way to break a cord like this is to just follow the process in the body code. And so in the body code, if I look up these cords, there's a whole section here in the book or in the app on cording. And they basically are cords that are from heart to heart are good, okay? And so if you're connected to your family members, ideally, you want to be corded from your heart to their heart, okay? Sometimes these cords will go to different places. Sometimes you might be connected with a cord going from your gut to someone else's gut. And so there's just negativity and garbage that flows along there.
Maybe sexual organs as well, if there was sexual trauma involved.
Yeah, yes, exactly. You can be corded to somebody really in any manner. And a lot of the time it manifests in ways where that are interesting. Like, for example, let's say you have an old girlfriend or an old boyfriend and you can't seem to get them out of your mind, and they'll just, like, sometimes suddenly they'll just pop into your mind at certain times. That's kind of strange. Why did, and maybe it's been 40 years you haven't seen that person. Well, that's a sign that there's probably a cord connecting you to that person. And the easiest way to get rid of these cords, and of course in the emotion code, in the body code, what we do is we check to make sure that there isn't anything else that needs to be known about a cord. Sometimes there's a little more that you need to find out about a chord before the subconscious will allow it to be released. You might need to know who the chord is to. You might need to know when the chord maybe was created. And but it's all outlined in the Body Code app. And so then the other question you'd want to ask is if there is anything associated with this chord. And so the process is, usually you don't have to do this, by the way, but occasionally there might be a trapped emotion or some kind of a trauma that might be connected to a chord, and you might want to find that and clear that out so the chord doesn't come back and get recreated. And then releasing a chord is really simple. You can just swipe a few times over your head or down the back of the other person you're working on, and with an intention to just send that chord back with love and heal whatever wound might be there. And so it's really a fast process to get rid of these. It usually takes about a minute or less.
Yeah, love that. And Dr. Bradley, you mentioned that the spirit is eternal. And yesterday I found it really interesting because one of the first things that came up while we were doing the session is that there was a disconnection between my spirit and my body. We determined it was about 89% connected. So the goal obviously is 100% connection. And I feel like when I think about that visualization, and there's this movie on Pixar, Disney, Soul, when people are misaligned with what they're doing, or, you know, that typical image of the guy in the corporate job, and truly he's an artist, you know, the soul is out here. And we've also had mediums on the show where they explain that sometimes our soul places exit points throughout our life. If we're completely misaligned, completely disconnected, the soul will choose to go through that exit point and then just complete the cycle and go into the next reincarnation. But I wanted to ask you, going deeper into this, what have you seen are the common causes of the spirit disconnecting from our body, and how can we merge those two back together?
Well, this is a fascinating thing. I used to ponder this at length for years, actually. How does the physical body, how does it interface with the spirit within us? I mean, if you go to a funeral and you look at the person lying there in the casket, it's obvious that something has changed. Some light has gone out of them. Yeah. And of course, there have been countless cases where people have actually seen a spirit leave the body. Going back since time out of mind. And in fact, in 1907, I believe it was, they did a study where they took people who were terminal, near death, and they put them on a very, very fine scale to see if there was a change at the moment of death. And they found out that there is a change. In fact, the body, when the person dies and that spirit leaves the body loses about 21 grams of weight on average. Now, somewhat controversial study, but I think that's very possibly true. Yeah. So the spirit is eternal, I believe.
Or they let out a fart right before they were about to go.
Hey, you never know what could happen. So at the moment of death. So it's really interesting, right? But yes, I believe that spirit of ours is eternal, and that is really who we are. And so how do they get disconnected? Well, when they're connected, they need to be connected at 100%. But I found that oftentimes if you have some kind of an intense physical or emotional trauma, or a prolonged emotional difficulty that's really hard to go through, the spirit will sometimes leave the body part way. Now, if you think about it, the spirit and the body should be united perfectly together, right? And it's the spirit is like the software that runs the body. The body is like the machine, like the computer. We know that if the spirit leaves the body completely, you're dead, and they're planning the funeral, and they're going to bury you or cremate you. But you can be mostly dead, okay? The spirit can be mostly out of the body, and you can still be alive, but you're not going to be feeling very good. You're not going to function very well. You're not going to be able to be very healthy. And so I've seen many cases where when we simply bring that spirit back into the body 100%, all kinds of things shift. I mean, I've seen bones, an entire spine just instantaneously realign. I mean, all kinds of crazy things happen.
Spontaneous remissions.
Yeah, crazy things happen. Now, the other thing that can happen, and these are both in the body code, sometimes the spirit and the body will be where they're supposed to be. The spirit will be in the body 100%. But sometimes the spirit and the body won't be talking for some reason. There'll be some kind of a block in some way. And so there are various different reasons why that happens. A lot of the time it has to do with emotional experiences, sometimes toxic experiences. Sometimes it's some kind of physical trauma. So it varies, but the beauty of it, though, is that now, using the body code, it's easy to find and correct things like this. That some of these things are pretty exotic things, but again, these are things that really I learned during those years that I was in practice, asking for help all the time. In fact, how this one came about, I'll share this with you. My wife was pregnant with our daughter, Lizzie, who's 22. And so this goes back a ways, but she was very, very sick with morning sickness, the sickness of pregnancy. And she was begging me to help her. And so I was thinking about all of the things that I had done for other patients, and none of those things really had worked, things that everybody else recommends, like the little wristbands or eating ginger, things like that. None of those things really work. None of those things fix it. So before I went to work on her, I said a prayer. I said, Father, if there's a better way to help Jean with this morning sickness, please help me to understand it, because I just don't know what to do here. And I got a download. This information just flooded into me. And the answer was almost whimsical. The answer was, well, you'd feel pretty sick too if you had a new life growing inside of you, especially if your brain wasn't connected to it. And that was the answer. Yeah. And I thought, oh, so it's a connection issue? So I tested her to see if her brain was connected to the fetus, and it wasn't. So I reconnected it, and boom, the morning sickness was gone. Lasted for a few days, and then it started to come back again, and I checked her, and sure enough, there was another little disconnection going on. Fixed that. I had to work on her 3 times, and that was it. And I thought, oh man, this is really amazing. We found the cure, or the cure has been shown to us really for morning sickness. And we have practitioners now who just specialize in this in the world, and work on other people who are pregnant and morning sick at vast distances, and get great results. So that was kind of the beginning of this whole disconnection thing, because and figuring out how things disconnect, how the spirit can get knocked out of the body. And another phenomenon that we find in the body code has to do with the heart, how the heart can actually become broken, so that the spiritual heart, not the physical, but the spirit counterpart of the heart, can actually become split. And then that can create a lot of physical problems with the heart, we think, later on down the road. But it's fixable.
Yeah. And I'd love to break this down, because I'm noticing and drawing upon your experience when you've asked for help and when you're getting these downloads. I can just imagine, because when I look at something like the body code and the emotion code, it's highly structured information. Like there's 6 key elements, the emotions are laid out perfectly in columns. Like it's highly structured information. And I wanted to ask you your process of putting these codes together, in the sense that, when you've asked for that help from source, and this has been given to you, this information for you to carry out in the world, what has that process of bringing this body of work into the world looked like for you?
Well, it's been really interesting. My life path, I think, had a lot to do with it, because I was healed of kidney disease through some holistic healers. I decided when I was 13 years old, I decided that's what I was going to do with my life. But then I discovered computers, and man, I was into the computer world hook, line, and sinker, and loved computers, and became a computer programmer. I had a business called The Computer Tutor back in the early 80s.
Yeah.
When people would buy computers, they didn't know what to do with them because there was no software. I'd go in and write the software for their offices and their businesses. And so that taught me to think logically, right? And then I discovered mind mapping. And mind mapping is just a brilliant way to take notes, really, and to organize information. And So during all the years that I was in practice, I always had a computer right there with me as I'm working on people. And as I was finding new imbalances that hadn't been seen before, I was always organizing them, right? And fitting them into this system where I could find them easily. Then what I found as time went on was that the subconscious minds of my patients somehow were aware of this map that I'd created. They were already aware of it. And it didn't matter if it was a brand new person that I'd never seen before. I could ask questions of their subconscious mind about where their problems were, and their subconscious would know in this mapping system, this deep mapping knowledge base that I'd created, their subconscious mind would know where to go. And so it was really amazing. For example, I had a patient that came to me once who'd been hospitalized for 5 days with this really severe pain in the abdomen. And they'd run every test known, and they finally released her and they said, we can't find anything wrong with you. You know, we can't help you. You have to leave. And so she came in to see me, and, you know, her pain is a 10 out of 10. And I start testing her using the body code. Her subconscious mind was able to guide me to these various different things. And I fixed some things and fixed whatever I could. One of the things that showed up that she needed was chromium. And I thought, well, okay, chromium is great for blood sugar. And I told her, I said, it looks like you need chromium. I thought it was kind of an incidental thing. And I said, we're out of it right now, but I think you should probably get some at some point. So I finished my session with her and she went home. So she comes back the next day and now she's like an 11 on the 0 to 10 scale of pain. And I don't know what to do. And I'm thinking, man, this has got to be appendicitis. They must have missed it in the hospital or something. This is not good. So I didn't know what else to do. So I started asking questions of her subconscious mind. And out of all the thousands of possibilities in that computer database that I'd created, I was taken right to nutrition and right to this table and right to, guess what? Chromium. And it was only at that moment that I remembered, oh, wait, that showed up yesterday. I said, you know what? I don't know why, but I said, I think your body really needs chromium. I said, I want you to leave right now. Go down the street to the health food store, buy some chromium.
What is chromium?
Chromium is just a mineral that's used by the body processes, but it showed up. Now,
yeah,
you know, I didn't really have any idea what was going on. All I knew is that it was showing up again, and so her body must need it. So I said, go down the street to the health food store, get some chromium, ask for water, take some right there. 20 minutes later, this young, very athletic woman is literally jumping up and down in my waiting room saying, I'm fixed, I'm fixed. She said the instant that she took that chromium, the pain was just completely gone. Pain that she'd been hospitalized with for a week. And she said, how did that work? And I said, well, I have no idea. But I said, luckily, your subconscious mind was able to communicate that need through the body code to me, yes, that's what you needed. And how it worked, I still have no idea how it worked, but it worked.
We don't need to know. We don't need to know.
Exactly.
And, you know, looking out at the world right now, we're seeing so many paradigms falling. There's so much division going on right now. And what was really interesting to me yesterday doing the body code was that some allergies and intolerances started coming up. And, you know, when I think of allergy, I think, oh, dairy or, you know, peanut butter, things like that. But in this case, I got an allergy or an intolerance to an idea or concept. So when I look at the world, I think that we are infected with allergies of ideas. And that's why, you know, idealism and things like that, where we're fighting over beliefs, religious beliefs especially, how can we begin to remedy these allergies to ideas so that the world and humanity as a whole can begin to coalesce in a more integrated fashion?
Well, great question. My belief is that the consciousness level of the earth every single day now is greater than it was the day before. The scales are falling away from people's eyes. People are waking up. People are suddenly understanding that it's almost like humanity's been asleep for all of these generations. People are finally waking up and realizing, oh, there are these control structures in the world that want to enslave mankind. And that's not where we want to go. Mankind wants to be free. And so these old power structures are desperate to hold on to their power. And so, you see it every day going on, and we don't need to get into any details, but we've seen it manifest profoundly in the last couple of years. And so I think that as time goes on, that awakening, that conscious awakening, is going to reach more and more and more people, and eventually the world is going to transform. The world, as I see it, is kind of in labor. It's laboring to bring forth this whole new existence beyond anything that we have ever experienced ourselves, but a kind of existence that has existed before in this world, I believe, where there are no poor among us, and where there's no more murder, there's no more theft, there's no more things that go on that hurt other people. That's really where we're going. And so I think it's inevitable. Right now, what's going to happen is people have to choose sides, essentially, one side or the other. And where do you want to be? I mean, which side do you want to be on? Do you want to be on the side of light or the side of darkness? And that's it's like the yin and the yang, right? You've got the light, you've got the dark. Which side, ultimately do you want to be on? And people often talk about, becoming an ascended being and so on. And to me, what that really means is it means how much love are you capable of? When we die and go to the other side, people come back and they talk about this, and they're never, if they have a life review or an interview, which often they do, they're never asked, right?
Dr. Eben Alexander on the show, and
okay.
Another level. We'll link people soon to that show.
But people aren't asked, how expensive of a car did you drive, or, how big of a mansion did you live in? It's never about that. It's about how much love were you able to develop for your fellow beings in the world. The Apostle Paul wrote about how even if we have all knowledge and we can do all kinds of miracles and all kinds of amazing things, and we're these big celebrities, when we get to the other side, if we don't have the ability to love others unconditionally, we're nothing. It was all in vain, see? So it's all about that. It's all about love. And so I think that I might have gotten off tangent there, but anyway, that's kind of how I look at it.
I think the opposite of off tangent. I think you went to the central point. Like, we're here to spread love. We're here to bring more light into this world right now. And, to start wrapping this up, I really wanted to first ask you, where do you see your work evolving right now in the next coming years? Where is this body of work going?
Well, it's going to become a household name. It's going to become recognized. It is already, but that process is accelerating more and more rapidly now. We see that happening. And it's if you think about it, the old Western medical model of traumatic care and so on is always going to be needed, right? But what's happening right now is that these big pharmaceutical companies are in the process, essentially, of failing in many ways, and they're in the process of collapse, as I see it. Now, there's always going to be a need for some kinds of pharmaceuticals, I think, at least for a period of time. But the whole pharmaceutical industrial complex, as I see it, it's really teetering, and I think that's why they're so desperate to hold on to their power through all these things that have been going on. But anyway, I think the day is going to come where if you're sick, your subconscious mind is going to be queried for the real answers, for the real reasons. Why are you sick? It's the imbalances within us. It's our emotional baggage. It's the pathogens. It's the toxins. It's the nutritional deficiencies and things like that, the traumas and so on, that are the underlying reasons why we manifest disease. And that's a new paradigm. Really, in Western medicine, if you have some kind of a disease, well, we need to find some kind of a pharmaceutical drug that can suppress the symptoms of the disease. And really, most of the time, do nothing for the real, true underlying causes. That's the paradigm shift that is going to take place. And it's inevitable. The cat is out of the bag now. There's no stopping it. So that's where this work is going.
And this body of work is giving people the tool to heal thyself, to not rely on outer parties to tell them, take this vaccine right now and we'll see if you get cured. But, I'm really, excited to see where all this is going, Dr. Bradley. We end every show with a final trio, which are rapid fire questions that you could answer in any way that you want. But before that, I'd like to send people off to connect with you deeper, where they can maybe train with you, where they can get to know your work even deeper. You mentioned the Body Code coming out February 2023. Where would you send people to connect with you even further?
Well, we have two websites. You can go to discoverhealing.com. That's our company website. And then I have a personal site at drbradleynelson.com. It's drbradley, BRADLEYNELSON.com.
Amazing.
So either one of those.
Everyone right now in the show notes, or if they're listening on YouTube, it's in the show description. For the final trio, this is one of my most favorite parts of the show. Each question is sort of personalized to the guest. The first one is, what ingredients make up a true healer?
Well, you need to have love for the person that you're working on. You need to have love for yourself. You need to have gratitude that what you're doing is going to help. And you need to have an expectation that what you're doing is going to work. And you need to ask for help from whatever higher power you may believe in, so that you're not totally on your own, so that you're also guided by the angels around you and by that higher power. That's the secret.
Could you quickly go deeper into that expectation part, having the expectation?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, when you have gratitude for something that you are hoping to achieve, when you have gratitude that has already been achieved, that gratitude energy is a very, very powerful force that goes out into the universe, and the intelligences that make up the universe are unable to withhold from you. I believe that when you have that gratitude and that expectation that this is going to work, and I'm so grateful that this is working, it just happens. Jesus once said that whatever you ask for, if you believe and you're grateful that you've received it already, then it's definitely going to happen. Words to that effect.
Yeah, and in quantum physics, we're in this eternal now, so there is a future parallel reality of us that's the most healed, the most healthy, the most vibrant version of ourselves, and all we have to do is align ourselves to that.
Exactly.
The second question I wanted to ask you is, what is the code to unlock and liberate who we truly are?
Well, that's a great question. I think that that code is there. I think that for every single person, finding that code is the most important thing that they can do in their life. And I think that as we listen to the conscience within us that we are all given when we come into this world, and as we try to align ourselves with what we believe to be right and what we believe the higher power wants for us, what the universe intends for us, as we do that, and as we open our hearts, and especially as we ask for guidance, and that's been, I think, the key. If I were to say one key or one theme really for my life, that's been it. It's been asking for guidance. That's what's brought me to the place that I am. That's what's enabled me to bring these healing methods into the world, which have nothing really to do with me. I'm just the messenger. But kind of like you as the host, right? You said earlier, you're just here as the facilitator. That's me too. But I think that as you as you live your life and as you follow those intuitions that you get, those subtle feelings, those little thoughts that come to you, those little bursts of light and intelligence that come in, if you follow those, you'll gradually be led to greater and greater truth until the code of this life suddenly you come across. It becomes apparent to you. And I think I'll leave it at that. I think that I think it's all about listening to your intuition, trying to follow it, and that sometimes requires us to tune out some of the world. You know, we're so distracted. If you're listening to music all the time and it's loud, or if you're never taking the time to go for a walk by yourself in the woods when it's quiet, a lot of the time those subtle messages don't come through to you, but they're always being broadcast to you. In other words, the code, we could call it that, is continually being sent to you, but you may not be picking it up because you're too distracted playing video games or listening to loud music or going to parties or whatever. You've got to take time for yourself. This is a reason why, for me, I'm distracted too. I try to keep a pencil and a piece of paper by my bedside, because a lot of the time, the only time that the other side can connect with me is right in those first moments of waking up. And I bet a lot of you have had that kind of experience where as you're waking up, you're not distracted at all. And that's when the other side, the higher power, the angels, whatever, can put a little idea in there that then you think, oh, that's a great idea. I should write that down.
Yeah. And even just giving my example, right before we record any podcast, I tune in for at least 30 minutes before the guest hops on. And the last 10 minutes is complete silence. And many times, like I can't explain to you how many times I'll just receive like ideas, questions, like seeds of where the conversation should be headed, intentions. And it's in that silence where I get those, let's say, downloads and kind of inclinations of what is most aligned and for the highest good of people. So, Dr. Badley, the last question, hopefully not the last. I'd love to do this again. This is a beautiful conversation.
Sure.
We call this the time capsule question.
Mm-hmm.
So it requires us to travel a bit out into the future, let's say about 20, 30 years, when, let's say, the younger generations are going to be stepping up into leadership positions around the world, whether that be through technological, science, different, aspects, the next spiritual leaders of the world. And I were to give you a time capsule and I were to say, you could put anything that you want in this time capsule. That could be a book, that could be a word, a poem, anything physical, even a frequency that you'd like to implant into this time capsule. What would you put in there? And the reason why it's important is because when these next generation of leaders down the line, they're coming up into these leadership positions, they're going to open the time capsule and seek out that guidance and that wisdom from what you decided to put in there. What would you include in the time capsule for the next generation of leaders?
Well, that's a great question. I think I would put a copy of the emotion code in there.
Yes, definitely.
Probably a copy of the body code. How much room do I have?
A lot. It's it's infinite.
Unlimited. Okay, good. That's what I was thinking.
A whale if you want.
Yeah, awesome. I think that, well, first of all, I think that 20 or 30 years from now, I think the world is going to be much different than it is now. I think that this shift that's happening is happening so fast and at such an accelerating rate every day, every hour, every minute, that I think in 20 or 30 years, the world is going to be so vastly different that it will be unrecognizable from what it is now, for the better.
Yes.
So I think that, let's see, what would be the most important thing I could put in there? I think I would put a heart in there somehow. Maybe like a stuffed heart or something, with maybe some inscriptions on there to just remind everybody that the heart really is the core of our being, and that we are designed divinely, and that these bodies of ours are actually temples, in a sense, that house these sacred eternal spirits of ours. And I think I would put a heart in there that had that explanation, that had those ideas written on that heart in some way, just to help people understand and realize that that you look at all of man's history, and it's really a tragic history. It's a history of wars, and it's a history of sadness and disease and suffering in so many ways. But the future history can be completely different from that. And I believe it will be completely different from that, because we're learning now about who we really are. And we're learning that that life is sacred and very special, and that there are divine reasons why we're here, each one of us. And so I think that I would put some things in that would help people to remember those things, even in that age. When I think my own belief is that after we get through all of this difficulty that we're going through now, that this transformation of the world is going to be complete. And I think it's such an exciting time, really. I mean, I'm getting older, but I think you're going to be here to see a lot of amazing and really incredible things. And I'm going to see part of it too, and you'll see all of it.
I love that. I love that. Is there a reflective question that you'd like to leave the young generation with, to ponder upon and contemplate for their life right now?
Yeah. The question I would like to leave you with to think about is, do you have a heart wall? Do you have a heart wall? Is it interfering with your ability to create the life that you want? Is it interfering with your love life, with your social life, with your creativity? What's it doing to you? That's the question. 9 out of 10 of you do. And finding out about that and getting rid of that wall can seem like such a simple thing, but I'm telling you, it can change your whole entire life. It can change everything about your existence. And so I hope that this time that we've had together will open your mind to the idea that healing is something that really is a birthright that belongs to you, that you have the ability to heal yourself in many ways, and to heal your loved ones and your friends and your family members and even your ancestors. That power now is available to you. It's out there in the world. It's available. It's the emotion code. It's the body code. And take advantage of it now. I meet people periodically in their advanced years who are just discovering this work, and they're saying, my gosh, if I would have known about this when I was 20, like, it would have changed my whole life. So check this out. Find out about it. Get a copy of the Emotion Code book. Start practicing this, and you'll see really how truly transformative and amazing this is. And it has nothing to do with me. I just work here, but I'm grateful to have a job.
Dr. Brad, thank you. Thank you so much, brother. We just brought it back full circle to the heart wall. I thought that was a beautiful ending. And I appreciate you. I honor you for the work that you're doing. And I can't wait to keep supporting and diving deeper, because, this is just the tip of the iceberg, I believe, for what is about to be birthed into the world through you. Thank you.
Thank you, Emilio. Thanks for having me on. And if you want to do another show, that'd be great. Love to do it.
Let's do it.